Start the actual event. It's going to say that you're the guest, even though you're not. All right. Event is live. Welcome, everybody, to the Indie Game Lunch Hour. We have not quite officially started. I'm going to warm up the room a bit. Oh my God, Don Bellinger is here. Hi, Don. Welcome. Been a hot second since I've seen you. Welcome, everybody, to the Indie Game Lunch Hour. It is wonderful to have everybody here. Before we officially start the recording, I'm going to do some explanations. So we're going to do a community episode today. What that means is we don't have a formal guest. Unfortunately, the reason that we're starting late here is Ibrahim was trying to get his mic working, and for whatever reason, we couldn't get audio working for Ibrahim. So we're going to bring Ibrahim back another day. And today we are just going to talk as a community. Community episodes are work by having us discuss some kind of high-level topic all together as a community. So I'll be reading chat a lot. And then I'll also call people up on stage for brief conversations. So you can jump on and talk for 10 minutes, 15 minutes, if you feel compelled to do so. The topic that we're going to discuss today is a high-level evolution of the game industry. So what's changing today and what does the future of the game industry need? I am back. Hi, Misha. Drop your questions right now and discussion topics in the chat for the sake of an evolving game industry. Who asked about shadow publishing? Let's see. Right. Clever Nevers. Clever, do you want to get up and talk about shadow publishing? Do you want to be in the episode? And then the other topic is from Joker, talking about horror and mature games. Do you want to get on and discuss this? And then if anybody else wants to hop on the episode and discuss, we'd love to have you in. I'm going to start the recording in just a second. Let us know engagement. Let us know other topics that you might like to discuss in the realm of the evolving game industry, what's changing in games. I think an easy one that I will start with is basically juniors, is how people actually break into games at this point in time. That's an easy place for me to start and to give some of my knowledge while people get warmed up. If you would like to hop on stage and actually discuss a topic, tell me in the chat. I will pull people up throughout the episode. And then if you have questions, drop them in the chat as well. So this whole episode will be answering community questions. Without further ado, I'm going to get the bot in here. And I'll get the soundboard ready. So this would be a briefer episode. All right. Here we go. Welcome, everybody, to the Indie Game Lunch Hour. Today, we're talking about an ever-evolving games industry.
The Indie Game Lunch Hour.
Come one, come all, to the best dang game dev podcast on the planet, the Indie Game Lunch Hour. In our live magical podcast, we give game developers the chance to hear stories of breaking in from industry experts, as well as directly ask them questions in the second half of each episode. As always, I'm your host here, Willem Delventhal, the headmaster at the Indie Game Academy, and joining me today is IGA? ? We actually were scheduled to have Ibrahim Alibrahim in our podcast today, and we will bring him back in a future episode, but unfortunately we had some audio issues and couldn't get his mic working. So we decided to instead do a community-focused episode on the evolving game industry. Community episodes here are always a delight. The idea is rather than having one dedicated guest, we hear opinions from the IGA community, those who are live with us in the Discord right now as we record this episode. So this community episode will be about evolving games. We've got two topics that we definitely want to discuss, which is the concept of shadow publishing, which I know next to nothing about, so hopefully some of you do, as well as the concept of governments seeming to crack down on games more lately with a ban on mature content. And before that, I'm going to talk a little bit about breaking into games at this point in time and how juniors actually get their first experience. I would love some concepts on that. Misha, I would love to bring you on. If anybody wants to hop on from the chat, just tell us in the chat that you would like to talk about one of these topics. And if you have questions, put them in the chat as well on the stream. If you're listening to this podcast after the fact, you are always welcome to join us on Discord. There are links to join down below. We also stream live to YouTube, LinkedIn, and Twitch, so you can watch us there if you would like and ask your own questions live. So first topic that I want to jump in on is the evolving struggle of being a junior in the game industry. As a human being, as myself, as me, one of my core purposes is to help creators create. I love the act of art. I love the act of creation, and I happen to fall in love with games as a art form. But I honestly view basically all forms of art, all forms of creation as one and the same. They are the act of bringing something into existence, and they're one of my very favorite aspects of life. They're why I exist. And as a result, I really love helping people work in that space and create the lives that they want to create, in which they get to express their art and create their art. In basically every artistic field, that's really hard. And part of it is because it's very compelling and attractive to work in art. And so basically every artistic field is incredibly just difficult to work in. It is there's a lot of people competing for the same very few jobs. And there's a lot of people who frankly aren't good enough to get to that top like 5 or 1% of performers in the field. And we just unfortunately don't pay enough in those fields to pay those people who aren't in the top 5 or 1%. I'm not saying that's a good thing. I'm saying that's how it is. So in games, one of the things that is sad, that I won't sugarcoat, is that we've just seen a higher and higher level of competition for those junior roles and a fewer number of those junior roles for basically the past 5 years. At the beginning, of 2020, we had a certain something happen that shall not be named, where the game industry actually saw a tremendous amount of growth. We had, I believe it was about a 23% year-over-year growth in 2020 for the number of people playing games, and therefore for the amount of money made by the games industry. So that brief period of time was very much like golden age, or really just golden year of games. Companies hired to keep up with the demand, and they greenlit tons of projects because, wow, we have a captive audience. Everybody's stuck inside. Let's build a bunch of amazing games for these people. So they greenlit a bunch of new projects. They spent a bunch of new money. They hired a bunch of new people. But then within really about a year, a little bit more than a year, people started going back outside, and that captive audience evaporated. So that 23% growth for every 4 people across the planet, 1 more person started playing games, sort of evaporated, in less than a year. And so we now had all of these extra people who were gaining experience, who were moving past being a junior. And we now had all these projects that had been greenlit for an audience that no longer existed. Once again, not saying this is correct or good, just telling you what happened. Then we had all this extra talent, all these extra workers, and all these extra projects for an audience that didn't exist. And so slowly over time, for 5 years now, Jeebus, we've been bleeding off that talent, and we've been canceling those projects. I myself have been laid off twice within that 5-year period. Many others have been laid off the same number of times. I am fortunate to have a job right now, but a lot of people who gained a lot of experience during that time period and are genuinely very talented game developers couldn't find work. That means that this pool of people looking for the jobs that still do exist has been getting bigger and bigger. And then, not including those seniors who got fired down, those juniors who were just getting started and were excited by this golden age and excited by making games and excited by the prospect of making their art, are moving into the world of game development, and therefore creating an even bigger talent pool that's looking for work in these even fewer job positions. The stat that I've heard that is the most depressing is for the typical junior, the average junior who is applying for work, about 1% of them, less than 1% of them, will actually land a job in games in 1 year of applying. So for 12 months of applications, only 1 in 100 people will find a role as a junior game developer. That's just untenable. And we at IGA have actually seen a real drop off in the overall excitement of juniors working in games. There's sort of, it feels to me like there's been a kind of bubble pop where people are like, yeah, it's just not realistic for me to work in games anymore. Going to do it. We even actually, towards the beginning of this year, unfortunately lost one of our workers, Nick Gurley, who we really loved, our chief of operations. And he left because he simply stopped believing in the possibility of games making enough money to support his family. He's got 3 kids. And so, that was tragic. And that is sort of the story that we've been seeing across all of games. So I'm starting this episode really depressingly on purpose, I guess. I don't know. I'm telling you the real facts, the real truth. And I'm curious what you think, audience, now that I've given you this introduction, what this means for our industry. Does this mean that we just need to slough off a bunch of talent and it's natural and people should stop trying to work in games unless they're super committed, super talented, have some kind of money behind them, have rich parents? Is that what this means? Does this mean that people need, what I hope is this means that indies should be building games and releasing games for themselves, that's how you get junior experience now. You launch your own games, you start your own studios. That's very much what I'm pushing, what IGA pushes, but I don't know if that's right. On average, the very first game released by an indie game developer makes only $300, and it takes them anywhere between 1 and 3 years to make that game. So $100 a year in revenue, not even profit, is pretty horrendous. So does that even make sense? Tell us what you think, audience. And if anybody would like to speak on this subject, I would love to hear your thoughts. What do we think? Oh, I'll bring you up, Ibrahim, but I don't know if your mic's gonna work. If your mic works, that'd be amazing.
You hear me?
Oh my God!
Finally!
You got it working!
I made it. Okay, let me give me a second.
All right, plot twist. Y'all, we spent like 15 minutes, 20 minutes even trying to get his mic working before the episode.
You don't know what I went through. Am I saying your name, by the way? Is it Willow?
It is Willem, yes. And am I saying your name correctly, Ibrahim?
Yeah, it's Ibrahim. It's fine.
Okay.
I'm just gonna turn on my camera right now. Okay, wonderful.
Welcome to the show. That's so funny.
Okay, I'm using my phone because I'm not gonna go through it. Just give me a second.
Redo
is there a way to like maximum? Okay.
We did. This is actually a good transition because you were going to be talking about solo indie dev.
Wonderful.
So yeah, start us off. I guess. Why don't you answer this question first? What do you think this means for the junior games market, in your opinion?
I would say the way you put it was definitely interesting. Whether it's sustainable for, let's say, developer, take care of their family, and as you mentioned, this person that had like 3 children. And whether it was something that he could do like in the long run. I think one thing that we have to keep in mind is that unlike other industries, for example, the banking sector and even other jobs where the production or the product is a need, I think gaming is a bit different in the sense that it's more towards entertainment. And I think that kind of like boils down into like you're doing it because you're enjoying it rather than, you'll have investors after you, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure other people might. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think that's really accurate. I still sometimes look back at younger Willem and give him a virtual slap on the back of the head. Because I did not understand how lucky I was to land a job in games right out of college. In fact, before college, I got an internship before leaving school and then worked at that company, Lumosity, right when I left school. And because it was, air quotes, easy to get that job, it was one of the first games jobs I applied for. I now realize that I just got lucky, but Willem in the moment didn't really understand what an absolute blessing it was to get that job. And to get, a like good, solid paying job that lasted 4 years, unheard of in today's game industry. So I, at the end of that, though, I was so hungry to go and start something. I had 6 months of runway saved up, y'all. 6 months. And I was like, yeah, that's plenty of time. I'll get my company to make money by the end of that 6 months. So short version of the story is I burnt through all of my savings. And actually managed to keep myself afloat, which I guess is its own lesson, doing contract work and all kinds of other little things, and never really made that money back. I think what you're saying, where people expect it to just work out. Yeah.
I just had a question. So you said back when you were in school.
Yes.
Were you like doing like a degree or?
Yeah. So I got I just did a standard undergrad, so not a master's or anything. And I actually got
Nice.
a degree in business management and then a double minor in computer science and web dev. So it was very much, it was about working in tech. I was like, I'm going to start a tech company. And so that was it.
And you wanted to secure a job in like as a developer.
Yeah, I am a developer. I was a developer. Yeah. But
right.
Yeah. Where tech company? Good question. I guess we have school. I don't know. Petunio. So yeah, your point that a lot of people, I think one of the people in chat, Kevin, I'd like to read his comment here. From my experience, is that many people trying to break into games are biting off more than they can chew, trying to get started in game development. They scope their first projects way too high. They don't treat game development like a job, and that leads to disappointing outcomes. I'm a generally optimistic person. And I believe in optimism despite what I'm about to say. But I've had so many times where I've shot myself in the foot expecting things to go better than they do. So that's a great example. I saved up 6 months of money and then burnt through all of it and never made that money back, in my tech company. And you could say I got experience, yada, yada. But that, I think, is that kind of like I could do it, I'll be the 1%, is every single junior that I've taught, and I've taught 10,000 people now, has had the same mindset. They're like, yeah, I'll be the one, when the math doesn't support that, right? 99 of them won't be the one. And like you said, Kevin, so many of them think about it as art, which I think is great and is important to keep that kernel. But they don't think of it as a job. They don't think about it as something that they have to really focus on, learn about, and try really fucking hard to make work. Game dev is not for the faint of heart. Game dev is not an easy profession. So you are a solo dev, Ibrahim, and I'm curious to hear, your own story. 20 minutes into the episode, why don't we do our first question, which is, tell us your origin story, Ibrahim. Where are you in games now, and how did you get there?
Yeah, so it's actually a really good timing that you asked this question right after what you mentioned about whether you're going to do it full time and whether it's just going to be a small gig. I think the main issue, going back to your question, is that a lot of times people do this kind of game development on the side, not because they don't have any faith in their project succeeding or their game, going full release, but rather that, again, goes back to demand of the gaming entertainment industry. And so unless if you have an investor that is willing to have a budget or invest in you, you could easily quit your full-time job and still go on your journey to develop the game. But as a gig of some sort, you'd have to allocate time after work and do that. But to answer your question, my name is Ibrahim. Okay, first of all, thanks for having me on this occasion. My name is Ibrahim. I'm currently working at one of the banks here in Kuwait. I am a software engineer, and by day I work at the bank, and by night I basically just pour everything I have into making this game. I've never developed any games before, but I've always had a passion for it. Since childhood, I've played a lot of these franchises like Legend of Zelda, Final Fantasy, the big ones. And while I enjoy my time working at scripts and applications and God knows what, websites, my passion has always been video games. And yeah, I'm really optimistic as to how this will go. We already have a promo demo on Steam, and it just showcases the mechanics of how everything is gonna go. And I'm still, going head on, fully motivated. So yeah.
All right, before I dive into some of what you just talked about. What is the best Zelda game of all time, in your opinion? Asking the real questions.
What's the what?
The best Zelda game of all time. What's your favorite Zelda game of all time?
Okay, I was born in 1998.
Okay.
It's gonna be a deep discussion. I was born in 1998. Although I did not, grow up playing these games per se, but I had a lot of my siblings that play those games. And one game that just stuck with me was Link to the Past. Just like the idea of like going between like worlds and whatnot. This one was just like truly a masterpiece. I would say those like this would be like from the Game Boy, time frame. Later on, I thoroughly enjoyed playing Legend of Zelda: Four Swords, which was on the GameCube. Um, the issue with that was that you had to buy like these Nintendo connectors from the Game Boy all the way to the GameCube, and that was like a hassle in of itself because these like they made one of the most awful wiring technology for that specific connector, and so they could easily be damaged, and basically you can no longer play with others. And then later on, um I think it would be like Wind Waker, but I've never managed to finish that game. So um, there's that. What about you, Willem?
Well, I was looking up.
I'm gonna try to track it too.
Sure, yeah. I think, I mean, it's hard to pick one because I have played just about every Zelda game. I haven't beaten them all. I think I
Right.
haven't yet played Zelda 2, the infamous one. But besides that, I've played pretty much everything. And I recently, funnily enough, have been playing Link to the Past because I started retro console collecting. So I have an SNES now. I've been playing it on the SNES controllers. I like getting the experience of what it was like, back in the day playing and then developing for these consoles. So I will. Do you remember who Moldorm is? The centipede on the platform in Link to the Past?
No.
Okay, well,
No.
everybody look up this boss because it's the worst fucking design boss of all time, and I hate it so much. The rest of the game is incredible, but my god, I hate that boss. Anyway, my favorite Zelda
One
game.
one thing about like the names, like in Link to the Past, is that it's just like white noise. I don't know, but I just ever since childhood, I could not stick with the name. Just see it like okay, cool, sir, bro, and I just go on about the journey.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna look him up.
Yeah,
Is it like a
Moldorm.
boss, right?
Yeah, he's like a centipede. He's not actually hard, but he's on a platform and he knocks you really far. And anytime you fall off the platform, you have to walk back up 3 floors to fight him again. So he's not hard. He just takes hours and hours of getting knocked off this platform over and over, and he resets his health every time you fall. So you have to like perfect him and not get hit a single time.
Yeah.
Oh my god, I was
You know,
yelling at the screen.
What I did was, I want to say this off the record,
Okay.
but I was playing on the SNES emulator on
Yeah.
my PC.
Okay.
Just recently.
Oh, so you
And I
quick saved.
basically saved like one before I jumped on this screen, so that I don't have to waste any time in finding this boss. It was just annoying, yeah. I was like actually looking like at this boss. I was so frustrated with like fighting it. I basically had to look at like one of these like speed runs or like tasks, playthroughs.
Yeah.
That was a horrible idea.
Yeah.
These guys are just like next level. They place these bombs around like where this centipede is gonna go and walk to, and I was trying that. It just does not work.
I eventually beat
Yeah.
it, brute forced it. I hate it though. The whole concept of that dungeon is what if you could fall through floors? And like, okay, that's cool, but oh my god, it's just an infuriating mechanic. It's okay though. That game is incredible. It deserves the legend that it has. But that one,
I noticed something.
oh.
Yeah, I noticed something that I was playing Minish Cap,
Yeah.
and I noticed that the damage in Link to the Past.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if it was designed to be like that, or maybe the SNES version that I was playing had this. But I noticed that you could easily die, like just one hit from the boss.
Yeah.
Could easily damage like 200. Whereas, like for example, Link to the Past, it was more forgiving.
Yeah.
But I haven't looked into it, so I have nothing to back that up.
I'm not sure
but
about
just
that. Yeah.
like the vibe that I got.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, so I'll cut to it because I want to talk about you. But I think probably my favorite Zelda game is somewhere. I have so many that I adore. Somewhere between Minish Cap. That's definitely my favorite, like Game Boy Advance area game. I love Minish Cap. I love Wind Waker. I adore Wind Waker. It's so beautiful and so like touching. And then it's hard to beat Breath of the Wild. Breath of the Wild absolutely just reinvented Zelda and was just incredible.
Right.
But let's talk about you. So you're working on a game. Tell us about this game for a second.
Right. Right.
Yes.
Right. So the game it's an RPG style game. It's highly, highly inspired by Final Fantasy games, namely Octopath Traveler, or not actually Square Enix. Sorry, Square Enix games. Specifically Octopath Traveler, and with a twist, I would say with I was originally going for like a multiplayer sort of thing, like Four Swords. But then I noticed that if I were to do this, it would be like server client sort of communication. It's not going to be split screen, so that everyone has their like own camera, their own navigation through the town. But anyways, let's put that on the side. It's like sort of like an RPG style game that is inspired by Square Enix games, and I'm also like aiming towards like sort of like a humorous sort of storytelling way, similar to like Undertale, where like each character has their own character, their own personality. You talk to them once, they give you a dialogue. You talk to them again, and it's just something else. I absolutely love this. So I just spend hours just interacting with all the NPCs in the town. That's sort of the idea.
And what's
to
the game
talk about
called?
the plot.
For people to look it up.
Uh,
And what's the game called?
Saqer's Paradox.
Okay, sweet.
Yeah,
It is spelled
Paradox.
Saqer. Yeah, dropped it in the chat for people.
Yeah. Saqer's Paradox. It's we also have like social media accounts, so if you just like run a Google search, you'll see a lot of links. And there's also like the official page on Steam for the quote unquote publishers of the game. And yeah.
Amazing. So I've got a question that I think a lot of people will be curious about. By the way, sounds like Saqer's Paradox is right after my own heart. My dream game right now. I've been slowly making a design doc for it as I have ideas. Very much not inspired by Final Fantasy, but inspired by Chrono Trigger. So, one and the same. And my working title for it is Under the Violet Moon. One day I'll make that game.
Yeah. Like sort of like 2.5D sort of game as well.
Yeah, Octopath Traveler is very much what I'm imagining. Beautiful retro art style, but still modern.
Sorry to keep you on Fulham, but one thing I noticed is that like Octopath Traveler just came out of nowhere, and they just they just brought something new, and like there's just the visuals looking at it, even though everything's pixel. They managed to like even use like the focus blur, and it looks so astonishing that I was just like, I find it so interesting that they came by and just brought this new genre to the gaming community, and how like every single game after that was sort of like turn-based game. So if you look at Octopath Traveler, and even the second one, and even the upcoming one, I think, or the released one, Octopath Traveler 0, I think, and even a couple of other ones, 2.5D, every single game I've noticed is that it's turn-based. And while they brought this idea along and introduced it to everyone, I have yet to see a game where it's like, you freely roam around and fight enemies, which is something similar to what I did like in the promo. Not like in this sort of like, turn-based style, fighting mechanics, but like sort of like similar to Link to the Past, where you just walk around, enemies. You don't have to like have some sort of like spells or like potions so that you wouldn't encounter like these random fights. You just like basically just evade them if you don't want to fight them. That sort of way. But yeah, I hope one day this game comes to reality.
I'll hit you up. I'll have you play test. The little bit of action RPG sounds like is some of what you are what you want to bring. I also really like something that I want to change. Both Final Fantasy and Chrono Trigger are super grindy, and I think the grind in video games is something that people enjoy less these days. There's still some games. All the Pokemon games are so grindy. But I really love Baldur's Gate 3 for completely avoiding the grind. Every enemy only exists once forever. And so they have
Yeah.
a really fine control over the EXP gain, and you can still go and fight stuff that you don't need to fight to be more powerful for, your adventure. So you can still grind if you want, but it's not required. And you're never just like leaving it. Like Chrono Trigger, I probably spent 7 hours fighting the same guy over and over again because I could steal speed tabs from him and make my guys super fast, Anyway, sidetrack. We can talk about this the whole episode. I am curious though. I have one big question. So you're working at a bank right now while you build this game, and you've now dropped the promo already. The game is moving along. Y'all should look it up on Steam. We will drop the link down below for you. That process, the solo dev while working in a non-games job, is quite common. And that, to me, actually feels like a bit of the answer to the question I posed at the beginning of the episode. Most indie devs and juniors are working some other job for the actual income while they build their dream games. How has that process been like for you? Is that something you recommend? How do you make it work for you? Because that's hard.
Absolutely. I absolutely agree with that. It's definitely not easy. It just comes from passion, to be honest with them. You have an idea, and you know for a fact that if you sit down, even if you have like the nicest friends, even like hardcore, video games fans, they just won't be as passionate as you. So sometimes you just have to take the first step to go ahead and make something, and then in order for it like to sort of like materialize or exist. And the current idea that I have is that I'll work on this for the time being, and then once I have some sort of like a prologue, and I would also suggest this to anyone that is going down the same path, is that once you would have like some sort of like a prologue demo, not like a promo sort of like mechanic based demo, but something that actually has like story to it, that leaves like a sort of like a cliffhanger to the end of it. I think only then would you like look for a way to have like people who are interested in this game sort of like fund it. But I know that is easier said than done, because going along with this idea, like even if you drop the promo or so the demo, and you continue down this path, it's very easy for you to get demotivated. We love talking about how like these indie developers, make this game, and like within 2 years or so, and it just succeeds, it just skyrockets,
blows up
everything's
overnight.
going well. Yeah. Like even I was looking at what's the developer's name? Was it Toby Fox, the creator of Undertale?
Yeah.
I think he was sort of like focusing for the majority of his time was on Undertale, and I think he was doing like some sort of like a side hustle. I think with his like music producing. I might be wrong, but this is what I read about it: is that although he was making money, but he had his time basically focused on the game, which I think for a lot of us, it's not the same. We have our like main job, our main source of income, and then we do that as a side hustle. If you plan to do it any other way, it's very risky in the sense that it might not there might not be like a full release product, unless if you're highly motivated. But that's just from what I've read, from what I've came across. It's pretty difficult.
Yeah. I when I left Lumosity, I was trying to start a company called Mew and Me, which I've talked about on the podcast before. It is video games for cats. It was brilliant and never made any money. And I was doing, and to make sure that I was, getting that started, I did probably about a year and a half, something like that, where I was still at Lumosity, but I was building Mew and Me. And the way that I made that work is I would do 2 hours, 3 days a week in the morning, and then I would give half my Saturdays as well. So I'd wake up at 6 a.m. 3 days a week and go to this little cafe and work on my cat games. And then every Saturday I would do half days on Mew and Me. And that is only, if you collect those hours, this is a way that I urge juniors to think about things. Don't just do it smartly. So if you collect those hours, that's only like 12 to 15 hours a week. That means that I'm getting less
Right.
than half time on this game. So a project that would take a year, if you're working on it full time, is going to take 2 or 3 years. So that realism, that healthy dose of realism, is something that I think juniors really miss. It is a grind, and it's so easy to tell yourself that story of like, well, I'll be the next Toby Fox and I'll have it explode overnight. But frankly, you won't. I so hope that that happens to you, but it is not bare assuming that that will happen. Instead, it's
One thing I
important to
want to touch
be
on
realistic.
is
Yeah.
like, yeah, sorry to cut you off.
No.
One thing like I want to touch upon is having someone that basically starts, well, not even like not at the very beginning, but so with Toby Fox, I might be mistaken, but I think even in his case, he had to. No, no, I think. Wait, did he have like an artist that did like the pixel art designs, or did he do it himself?
I don't actually know.
I actually don't remember.
I'll Google it.
Yeah. Well, regardless, is a lot of times. So you have an idea
Temi
for a
Chang
game.
did the art for Undertale, so
Yeah.
it was not Toby Fox.
Oh, okay. But the programming, I think he sort of like tried. Okay, I should stop asking you to search for me. Toby Fox, Undertale, Heroes. Okay.
A lot of Petunio in the chat says the programming of Undertale is famous for being on the poor side. A lot of those solo dev games are that way. And you know what I would say? Doesn't matter. In fact, solo dev, it matters even less, kind of. You definitely can program yourself into a sort of like hairball of code that makes continued development really hard. But especially if you are solo deving and you don't have to have somebody go into your code and understand it, like who cares, y'all? Don't stop yourself from making games. Definitely try to improve your quality, but don't like let trying to make perfect code stop you from making your dream games, y'all. Especially if you're doing it on the side as a
Yeah,
hobby project.
yeah. This is a really good point that you brought up. I brought Toby Fox along the way because I wanted to go back to this, but you put it wonderfully. Don't let these kind of things get in the way of you making a game.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of times, sometimes people just like stress over, bringing people over. The artwork has to be this level, like this level of standard. The game mechanics has to have this. Look at Undertale, and it's just simply basic.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you look at it, it's just two. If you want to like split it, it's basically two parts. You've got the NPC interaction. You just walk around, and then you'll be stopped, and you'll have like some sort of like cutscene with like different characters, and the fighting, sort of like layout.
Mm-hmm.
And despite being so basic and so simple, it just resonated with a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
And so it doesn't have to be, a triple A, sort of, design, like development team, and you can just do it with just like minimal amount of work. You don't have to have like a full-on setup team.
Yeah.
And in my case, luckily, since childhood, I always like drawn like artworks and all that. So that area in the game development is sort of taken care of.
Mm-hmm.
But for example, right now the soundtracks and the visual effects, sorry, the soundtracks, the visual effects, also something I could do. But the soundtracks is something I have no idea.
Mm-hmm.
Like I've got no skills in doing that. Sometimes you just don't have to stress over it. Just do what you can do, and then when the time is right, I'm pretty sure there are collateral
Mm-hmm.
of movie composers and etc. that are looking for opportunities like this.
Yeah.
An opportunity to be a part of a game on Steam.
Yeah, I think that last point is a really good one. No matter if you're trying to work on games, one of the benefits of how rough it is for juniors right now is that there's so many people who just want to work on a game, and it's frankly quite easy to find other people to collaborate on your projects with. Be a little bit cautious about that, because especially if you start talking money, Meaning, if you start talking, I'm going to give you this percentage of rev share, or I'm going to pay you this much. Definitely be cautious. Do your homework and do that well. Don't just throw away money. Don't just throw away revenue share. But if you aren't talking money yet, just get people to collaborate with you and work together on stuff. And if they only do it for a month and it's not quite right, like that's fine. That's lesson learned. There's so many people who just want to work on something. Now we're coming to the end of time. I know it's a shorter episode, but I wanted to have a moment to talk about one section of your topic. So you proposed to us how to build a complete indie game solo without compromise. And those last two words I think are interesting as a proposed topic, without compromise. So why did you propose that as a part of the topic, and what does it mean to you to build your game without compromise?
I hate AI generated assets, work, code. I can't stand it.
Mm-hmm.
That's coming from a software developer. Sometimes, especially in scripting. So in my case, the promo and even down the line, everything has been visual scripting. Now, some people might say, "Oh, this is not actual programming." I would say that I have more control over that as opposed to someone who does scripting, because I've came across so many people that there are people that start from scratch. They read the documentation, everything. But I've come across so many people that basically ask ChatGPT, it produces code. They take the code, they drop it into an engine or the engine they're using, and they have no clue what was changed, what was not changed, and even like it's just this thing is just so it can be frustrating because ChatGPT might just change something that is crucial to the original code. They might say that this needs to be changed, but upon you changing it, you might unknowingly change something that was not supposed to change about the game.
Mm-hmm.
And so with visual scripting that I'm doing right now, I pretty much have a hold of everything. Everything is under control. That and also artwork that is generated like by AI. I think like on Steam, I came across a page where it said, although Steam allows AI generated content to be a part of the game, you'd have to clearly specify what these sections are.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure if they'd be categorized in a different section that is like AI generated content, or I'm not sure about that. But the bottom line is that it feels original when everything is done by you without the help of these tools that are pretty much overrated at this point.
Yeah, it is. So I'm gonna go off on a tangent for a second, but I promise it'll tie together. So I mentioned towards the beginning of this episode that I've been collecting retro consoles recently, which has been a ton of fun, and that involves repairing retro consoles because they're all fucking broken. And I have relied so heavily on ChatGPT to repair consoles, and this practice of using ChatGPT to fix my consoles has single-handedly convinced me that ChatGPT is way less good than everybody claims it is. It's like simultaneously amazing and a total idiot. Like there's a.
I think usually for the right reasons, it certainly help you, but relying on it
is a trap.
Just on it, that would just basically. And even like it will just make your work generic. If you're trying to aim for something original, ChatGPT is trained on data from different places.
Yeah.
And that's how it answers you. And so most likely if you ask it for something like, for example, even an idea, oh, I want this idea for a game. You might not be aware of it, but it might give you something that has already been published.
Yep.
Defeats the purpose.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I think it's like somebody in the chat, Imani says it's a toddler with a big library at home. I think that's really true. Like it's not actually intelligent in any way. It's just aggregating anything it can find, anything it's been fed. So yeah, like it, at some point it told me to solder a wire to ribbon cable, which if anybody is here as an electrical engineer, that's a big no-no. And then also like, yeah, that would have also been like the ribbon cable was there so that you can remove the PCB. So it would have stopped me from being able to remove the board forever after. It was like, yeah, do that. And I was like, doesn't that mean I won't be able to remove this board anymore? And it was like, yes, you shouldn't do that. So anyway, I've for a while, I was really impressed by AI, and it still is an incredible tool. And I actually encourage people to use it. But the way that I encourage people to use it is very much as a sort of creative assistant, a thing to shoot ideas back and forth with, to get like temporary art so that you have something in the game, that kind of thing. But final assets, I'm adamantly against using AI for. And then I think what's really important is that you continue to learn on your own the traditional ways, because what's really dangerous about using AI is that it, instead of you running into issues, solving it yourself, and learning that lesson forever after, you'll wind up sort of half solving problems using AI code or AI whatever in this case that you're working on, and then you'll never learn the lesson. You'll just rely on AI forever after and never be able to actually jump into that code and debug it and understand it.
I would like to add to that is that it's absolutely fine to use AI generated, artworks that would be placed like as placeholders. But I get so many cases, or like I come across so many cases where, because the artwork generated it looks so good, you just don't want to remove it. So I would add to that. I would suggest that intentionally ask ChatGPT or any other platform to create an artwork, but you'd intentionally try to screw with it, and you save that as the original, so that you place it as a placeholder. You'd have to remove it later, because sometimes like it just generates something that you feel like, oh, this looks really nice. I've gotten used to it. So do that, and
that's genius.
It'll be all good.
I love that. Awesome.
Then I'll just push you.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I was going to start closing down the episode. I think that's kind of hilarious. I like that as a concept. I think, like, if you're just making something for fun too, it's not the end of the world to have some AI art in there. But if you're getting anywhere close to commercial or as like a portfolio piece, AI should not be involved. Awesome. All right. So it is definitely a little bit shorter since we were working on audio. I love that we had this crazy 180 halfway through the episode. Listeners, I lied to you at the beginning of the episode. I'm sorry.
No, it's fine. The way you take it upon yourself to sort of like sort everything out, you're a legend, honestly. I was like screwing with everything on my end, but I was glad that it went through. Despite me not being on. No, the audience, I noticed some of them left. But I think this will be recorded, so it's all good in case anyone wants to watch it. I was hoping that I'd be on since the beginning, but I think you handled it wonderfully.
Oh,
so
this is perfect.
Well done on your part.
Yeah, it's great to have you on. Well, so before we say goodbye, we like to do two things. So first, we're going to do that homework assignment that Kath probably mentioned over email. So we'll see if this homework makes sense. We're going to do it either way. So what is a homework assignment we can give to the audience here? It'll take them about an hour in the next week to practice some of what we talked about.
Right. The idea I had was that if everyone can pitch a time loop game idea that could realistically be made solo, just one sentence, bonus points for originality. If anyone could do that, or if you guys can do that, that'd be just amazing.
That's awesome.
I'd be interested to
super easy one. All right. So your homework, this is something all of you should have to do. I want you to do, please, because it's easy. Give us a pitch for a game concept that somehow involves time loops. Let's say we're joining a game jam right now and the theme is time loop. What game would you make? Do us a favor, post that to LinkedIn. Let people know that is your homework assignment, and you can tag us at the Indie Game Academy, Willem Delventhal, Ibrahim Alibrahim. There will be links to all of us down below if you need us. We will give you some thoughts on your homework. All right, before we say goodbye, Ibrahim, do you have any last words of wisdom or anything you would like to plug at the end of the episode?
I think I'd have to do the shameless plug.
Do it
for the podcast. So we have social media accounts on Twitter, formerly X, on YouTube, on Reddit, and on different other platforms. Make sure to check us out, and just let us know what you think. The promo demo is currently on Steam for free. You don't have to pay a single penny or a dime to get it. And you could just get a feel of like how in just 7 months someone managed to produce that without the help of AAA studios or anything like that. Just one individual that is working full time at a bank that is doing this as a sort of a side hustle. Just let us what you think. Let us know what you think. And it was honestly a pleasure being on here, Willem. It was wonderful to talk to you, and hopefully this won't be the last time.
Absolutely. I look forward to chatting again. Thank you so much for your time, and check out Saqer's Paradox. There will be links if you were listening to this episode down below, and the link to Ibrahim's LinkedIn as well. It has been a pleasure, everybody. We'll be here again every Wednesday at 12 p.m. Eastern Time without fail. You can join the Discord down below. Otherwise, I think that's going to be it. Any last words, I guess? Let me get the... Thank you for being here. It's been a pleasure. All right. Goodbye, everybody. We will see you again next week.
Game over.
All right. And for those watching the stream, we love you. We'll see you again next week. Adios.